All right, fellas. This is the big one. This is the biggest week. I'm excited, baby. I'm excited. And as I told the Daily Fix family and BK, you're going to join us. You're going to be there. Watch it. You're going to pick up the sweater vest. I'm telling you, you're going to start dressing like a straight up dad. I looked at it. My wife, she said to me, "God, man, you look like you just came off the 18th green." And you're just gonna just start dressing like a golfer, and that also means that's how dads dress. I've got on golf pants, Pumas, and I've gone and bought me this little Columbia sweater vest. This is the fourth one I've just got in the last year. So this is it. This is where you're going to start to turn as your son gets older. You're going to start
So
dressing like a father and wearing sweater vests.
I've been all in on flannels this year. I know I'm late to the
You're getting
party.
there. You're getting
That's
there.
that I feel like that's the midpoint. It's like you get to like the just plain t-shirts for a while, and then you get to the flannels, and then you get to the sweater vest. So it give me like 3 years. I'll be there.
I have flannel, so I don't have children. I
Yeah,
like.
but you wear your flannel sort of different than I think BK wears his. Is more of a dad wearing flannel. Yours is more of a grunge, Seattle grunge,
I do
soap
both.
pop.
I go both directions. I've got some that are like the button downs that are just like the classic dad button down. It's a random Tuesday. Let's go grab a coffee. And then others that are like the grunge. This has like pockets in it, and it's like a hoodie that happens to be a flannel.
You got some Soundgarden flannel. That's what you have there.
Nice big hole in the jeans. Yeah.
There
I
it
go
is.
Radiohead, but yeah, Soundgarden's fine too.
Yeah, it's just I mean, hey man, I ain't got that many grunge bands, so don't Alice in Chains. You go a little bit, yeah. Shout out Seattle. Hey, all right, let's get here. The big news, and this happened last night, as you all are listening to us on Friday, is Harrison Butker out of freaking nowhere hits not just the injury report, but hits IR with the knee. I'd like to know what the hell is happening. Maybe he was celebrating last Tuesday. I don't know, and it's extended, but he is on the IL or the IR. This is baseball. He's on the IR, and he's going to miss at least 4 weeks. And the way that the Chiefs have played football, and yes, these games have been close. The way they have played football, the way they have depended on him to extend leads with kicks, and really knowing that when you cross the 50, like in almost any weather, you're in field goal range to get points. This is a big deal. This is a big deal over the next 4 weeks. And in this, especially going into this game against the Bills, which is huge. So the Harrison Butker injury that came out of nowhere and that's going to miss extended time, a month's worth of time. This is a big deal over the next 4 weeks.
It is, especially because the way that Andy typically plays, right? Like this has become a team that is very conservative. If it's 4th and 3 from the 35, they're kicking the field goal because it's money with Harrison Butker. They know that 52-yarder is going to go in and they're going to take the 3 points, bank them, and they know because how good their defense has been over the last 2 years, over time, that is probably the smart decision, even though you have Patrick Mahomes. When you have a guy in there that has never kicked a field goal in this kind of a game before, it becomes a very different proposition, especially on the road, in the elements, in Buffalo. I don't think it's supposed to be like ugly this weekend, but it's still Buffalo, right? Outdoor game up there. This is not going to make things easy for Andy when you get into those kinds of situations. The spot that I'm really looking for, Ron, is like the 30 to the 45-yard line. When you are on the Bills 30 to the 45, what does Andy do in those like 4th and short situations? My fear, there will be situations at like the 40-yard line where Andy really considers punting. And if that spot comes up this weekend and he punts, we're all going to lose our collective minds. Because previously, that's just a clear kick it with Butker's spot. Now it's not that. And I don't think Andy has the aggressiveness right now to go for it because I'm not sure he has full faith in this offense to be able to go for it in that spot. It's going to make for some really interesting decisions over the next few weeks.
Yeah, I saw a lot of when the Butker injury news came out today, like, oh, that means the Chiefs are just going to go for it on fourth down more often now. And it's like, have
That's
you
my hope.
watched Andy Reid the last 2 seasons and how conservative he has become in those situations? Like, it feels like they haven't tried to go for a significant fourth down since the AFC Championship game they lost to the Cincinnati Bengals. Like when Patrick Mahomes dislocated his kneecap on a quarterback sneak, Andy Reid was like, well, never doing that again. When the Chiefs failed to get it in the end zone at the end of that half, and then it led to the collapse in the second half, Andy Reid was like, okay, we don't go for it on fourth down anymore. Like, they're just not going to do that. I think BK is totally right. Like, there's going to be some just head scratching situational football from Andy Reid where you don't have the auto plug and play in Butker. And if they put the field goal kicker that they signed today out there and he misses one kick, then Andy's going to play conservative and try to lean on the defense like he has the last 2 seasons.
Well, maybe is there some conservative nature because he's felt so comfortable with Harrison Butker? Is that potentially why there has been some conservative nature? I think that may be it.
I think it's about the defense and the offense. I think it's a combination of all of that. But I think the fact that he has a defense that he trusts, so he knows the games are going to be more low scoring, and an offense that has not lived up to expectations relative to what they previously were. I think all of that, and then you've got a kicker that you trust. Like, yeah, you're not going for it in that spot. I also think that Andy historically has been averse to going for it on fourth down. He is just not an aggressive coach. And this is the case, strangely, for a lot of the best coaches in the league. Like, you see this with Sean McVay, incredibly conservative. You see this at times with Shanahan out in San Francisco, very conservative. It's a lot of these like old school West Coast offensive minds. They, for whatever reason, they just do not get aggressive on fourth down.
But I will say he was a lot more aggressive before, like, the last couple of years. And, he went for it I was surprised he went for it on fourth down at the end of the half last week. I thought he would kick that one. He went for it there. And short yardage, they should be more confident, especially as they get more people healthy. Whether it's between 4th and 1 and 5, they should be more confident with Hopkins and Kelsey and then the backs that they have there. By the way, the one you're searching for, we're talking about Amber and Steve's kid, the Spencer, what's his name? Spencer Shredder. That's Schrader. The kicker. Yeah, Schrader. Yeah.
I don't think he's related to Cody, but we'll see.
Maybe, but Amber and Steve, young mom name. I didn't know Amber's were parents' names yet, but Amber and Steve, his parents, so proud. Hopefully, we don't have to see him much, but no, that'll be an interesting thing. But that will add to the thought of the narrative this week, boy. It's hilarious to me. The Chiefs are frauds. They're fugazi. They're comparing people. You know the sound I'm hearing about the Chiefs? Y'all remember what y'all was doing 2 years ago to the Vikings? That's what people are starting to say about the 9-0 Chiefs. Like, oh, if I see the 58-point margin of error, if I see they've trailed in 8 of their 9 games, and then ignore the fact that they've only not trailed in the fourth quarter in 2 of them. Those are my favorite stats. But people, boy, they are loving to do this. I knew I said this earlier on the Daily Fix, I knew as soon as I walked out of NRG and the Lions won that game, I knew what time it was. I knew what the national media was going to say. Oh, the Lions, they're the best team. Oh, look at these guys. They are struggling. Look at them. They had to get a blocked field goal. I know he didn't just miss it, but it was blocked. They had to go block field goal. Those lucky trousers. Look at them. They're so lucky. That is what is rolling around. I find it very hilarious. The team that's won 15 in a row in the last 2 Super Bowls with Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid, Travis Kelce, Chris Jones, Steve Spagnuolo are lucky.
It's so obnoxious because then, like, what you have to do if you're the person that's making that argument, right, is you then have to go into your whole spiel on why this other team is better than them. And when you go into but the Ravens, have you seen what the Ravens have done this year? The spiel typically does not include lost to the Raiders at home in week 2, played a 1-score game on the road at Dallas, the most fraudulent team early on in the NFL. Beat Cincy by a score, beat Washington by a score, lost to Jameis, like beat Cincy by a score again. And so when I hear these things, it's like, yes, the Chiefs have absolutely been fortunate to win all these 1-score games. Like, we can admit that, but guess what? The Lions, 1-score win in overtime against the Rams, 1-score win against the Arizona Cardinals earlier this season, 1-score win against Minnesota. You got a 1-score win this week, which was miraculous, against the Houston Texans on the road. Like, to have a good record, you have to do well in 1-score games. Also, lost to Tampa. The Chiefs have not come out on the losing end a single time this year. And Ron, 1-score games for other teams are much more of a 50-50 proposition than they are with Patrick Mahomes. No team in the NFL. I know the stats going around of what the Chiefs have done in their last, 15 1-score games?
12, yeah, something like that. I know they've had 12 1-score games in these 15 they've won in a row.
The Chiefs, since 2018, with Patrick Mahomes as the starter, are 51-22 in 1-score games. The Patriots, with Tom Brady as their starter from 2001 to 2018, won 68% of their scores or their games that were decided by 1 score. When you have a Hall of Fame coach and a Hall of Fame quarterback and a great defense, guess what? The odds are in your favor that you're going to end up winning those 1-score games. And one final thing on this, because it's really chapped my ass this week to hear this from people.
Oh, God, he's cussing.
The Chiefs this year have a plus 58 point differential, okay? Last year at this point, they had a plus 65 point differential. The year before that, plus 64. 2019 won the Super Bowl, plus 48 point differential. So they're right in line with what they've been each of their other 3 seasons when they've won the Super Bowl. Let's go back to the Patriots. Patriots in 2020, plus 47. At this point in 2017, plus 62. At this point in 2011, plus 59. At this point in 2003, plus 29. At this point in 2001, plus 35. Ron, they won the Super Bowl in all of those seasons. Enough with the point differential stuff. Enough with the they're getting lucky stuff. The Chiefs are a really good football team, and they prove it every single time that they've taken the field, more so than any other team in the league so far this year. But this is the week that they can shut all of those people up. If you do it this week, whether it's by 1 point or 3 scores against Buffalo, I don't want to hear it anymore. I don't want to hear it, because this is a true Super Bowl contender. And now you've done it against Baltimore, Cincy, LA, San Francisco, and potentially Buffalo. Yeah, no more. I don't want to hear it after this week if the Chiefs win.
Yeah, it's some funny stuff, fellas. It almost feels like people have forgotten that they played the Ravens. I like, sometimes I think about that, like they've forgotten they played the Ravens. And the part about it is, I don't think they've played an A game yet. I feel like I've seen the Ravens and the Lions A game. I don't think I've ever seen the Chiefs A game this year yet. And I want to throw this out to you all, and Serda, you first on this one, because I do think there is something to the 1-score games. For a minute, I hadn't been thinking anything of that. But like, these last 2 games were legit 1-score games. This wasn't like the Raiders where they have the lead by 14 or 11 at the 2-minute warning and they, score. These were legit games that were won at the buzzer. And I can understand tight games with the Ravens. I can understand tight games with the Bengals, the Bills, if this one is tight. The Falcons on the road, their first place. I can understand tight games with solid teams. Is there any concern, fellas, that tight games with the Broncos, tight games with the Buccaneers? I don't know about like I don't know about that. Like, some of these other teams, I get it, but is there any concern that they have tight games? See, they've been having tight games with everybody, like in some form or fashion, like not just the good teams, but even some of these teams that aren't on their level.
Not really. Like, I think it's easy to point to the Chiefs' flaws, and I feel like we've gotten even at times caught up in that a little bit over the last couple of years, because it's like, Well, they keep winning. They're obviously still a really good football team, but like there's obviously things they have to clean up and do better. Can they turn it on in the playoffs? And then they turn it on in the playoffs. But like it just goes back to like everything that BK was spelling out. Like if you're watching the Chiefs and saying like they are not a Super Bowl caliber team because they are having all these one possession games, or if you're just looking at the box score and saying what are the Chiefs doing? They're not an offensive juggernaut anymore. They don't force turnovers. Like they're not that good. It's like, well, you're not really watching what the Chiefs are doing because, as you mentioned, Ron, we haven't even seen their A game yet. But even in a lot of these games, it feels like they're totally in control, like in a lot of ways, at least on the defensive side of the ball this season. And I think last year they would mess around and lose some of these games and you'd just be annoyed because you'd be like, well, it was right there for them to win it, but they made a bunch of mistakes and they cost themselves. And that's why they lost this game. But I think the reason that they haven't lost those games this year is because they're even more talented than they were last year. And they're not even healthy right now. So I'm willing to wait a little bit and hope that they can just get some of these guys healthy and add some more pieces down the line here. And they're going to look even better down the stretch than they are right now. And they haven't lost a game yet.
I think it's fair to be somewhat skeptical of what has happened over the last 2 weeks, but for very different reasons. That's what's so strange to me. Like, I feel like a lot of people have been focused on the defense coming out of last week because Trent McDuffie didn't have a very good game. And there were some moments in the first half where it just looked kind of off. And this number 2 cornerback thing is a real concern. I felt like the offense was the bigger problem last week. You score 16 points, you're not going to get away with that very often. For as many frustrations as there were with the defense, man, they gave up 14 points. You shouldn't be losing that game no matter what. So the offense was more concerning last week, but you were also going up against a really good Broncos defense, so it was semi-explainable. The Bucs game, it was the defense that was more concerning because it was the running backs, the screens, the tight ends, all of the things that we know can potentially give them problems. They used that formula to a really high level and forced overtime against them. So I think there was real questions more so than concerns for me coming out of those 2 games, but it's like individual elements of the team. It's really about, hey, what's this number 2 cornerback situation really going to be? What are you going to have in terms of this running game? Because it has been a little inconsistent in recent weeks when you're not playing against the Bucs, who are like the worst run defense in the NFL. And are you ever going to hit on these long passes to Xavier Worthy? Like, are those eventually going to start connecting? If you get some positive returns on that, you're good. But there have been some questions, I think, that have popped up over the last couple of weeks that are fair.
All right, let's get to when the Chiefs have the ball, as we do every week. This is an interesting game because the Bills' defense, they feel like in the past, I think in many of these games, because I would say the Bills are right there with the Bengals in terms of rivals for the Chiefs here of late, these last several years when Josh has been good. I would say they're on the same type of level. And usually the Bills, I'd say, for the most part in this rivalry, have had the advantage defensively, except for last year. But they've had the advantage defensively. They don't seem like that anymore. I think they hold up, but it feels like for the Chiefs that this is a defense that can be had. It feels like this is a defense in which what the Chiefs can do, they can – they're sitting a game to me like they're stifled like they were last week. Now, obviously, you got to protect better, but this doesn't feel like a team where it's like, man, they can keep the Chiefs under 20. Like this feels like they could get some work done and have some success against this defense.
It's funny because this defense reminds me a lot of like the early Spags years where the Chiefs would give up a bunch of yards, but not a ton of points. That's kind of who the Bills have become. Like they're running the cover 2 almost exclusively. They're going to run a ton of that in this game. And so it's the classic defense where they're saying, hey, take what's underneath. And if you're willing to take the 5-yard gains every time for like 10 or 15 plays, we'll let you have it every single time. Their bet is you're going to get greedy. Eventually, you're going to try to do a little too much, and it's going to lead to either a turnover or a busted play or something that ends up putting you behind the chains. And a previous version of the Chiefs would have done exactly that. Not this version, man. This version was built for this kind of defense. They are willing to stick with the running game, a running game that has been highly effective against the Bills this year, giving up more than about 5 yards per carry, bottom 3 in the NFL. They'll stick with the short passing game. Against cover 2 this year, Patrick Mahomes is throwing the ball an average distance of roughly 3 yards down the field. He's basically putting it to the line of scrimmage and saying, hey, go get the yards after catch. And it sounds like Juju is expected to be back this week. Perfect game for him to be reincorporated into the offense because you're going to need somebody that can beat this zone. Him, Kelsey, you've got now DeAndre Hopkins who knows how to sit into zones as well. I think the Chiefs are well equipped to be able to move the ball consistently, but I don't expect a ton of big plays. I do think this is going to be another one of those games where it's 5 yards, 5 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, and you just kind of move the ball down the field consistently.
Yeah, Mahomes has shown not to be impatient. like he'll just take it. He'll just take it. And I think there are still some potential threats because I mean Worthy can just run past people. I mean I've seen this happen to Buffalo. Buffalo, they have, even though they try not to. Like I watched Nico Collins just run past everybody and get a big touchdown against this defense. What I do like is it's just there's just no, like there's not one player, maybe Ed Oliver. There's just not one player you point to that's just like, hey man, that guy can ruin it. Maybe Johnson in the slot a little bit. He had a really, really, really good pick that he got against Joe Flacco, but that's Joe Flacco repeatedly give him. Like if you don't try to go for stuff that's not there, because there will be stuff to take. And I think the big thing about the Chiefs is they have had no problems with 6 to 8 minute drives. They have had no problems with move the chain drives. Now, I think the big thing is you got to finish in the end zone. One, now your kicker situation is different, but you have got to finish in the end zone against this team. And that's the big key to the game to me, because yes, they're going to give up yards, right? Like, I mean, in the last game, I think Flacco threw for 270 and 2 touchdowns. He just got impatient, right? Like Flacco throws for 272, 2 touchdowns, and Taylor has 21 carries for 115 yards, 5+ a carry. They just over 3 times. Like that was, I mean, they just turned the ball over. They couldn't stop turning the ball over. So they can be absolutely had.
Yeah, I think this Bills defense is a lot better than I thought it was going to be coming into the season, but they're not like an elite unit or anything. Like they want to create turnovers and they want to try to get after you with their defensive line because they've got a lot of guys that they can rotate in and out and give you some different looks, but they're also not particularly good against the run. So this is going to be a big game for the Chiefs, and those 8 to 14 play drives that have been their specialty this season, that's exactly what they want to do in this one. And you want to keep Josh Allen off the football field because Josh Allen has been great this season. And Josh Allen's really doing it without many big name players himself on that side of the ball. So I think this is a game where as long as the Chiefs don't turn the football over and they run their offense and they do it in an efficient way, the way that we've seen them do that, and hopefully adding DeAndre Hopkins in the mix in game number 3, they can actually get it done in the red zone. And then that'll actually come full circle and we'll see what the offense can do against a real playoff opponent.
I'm really interested. Go ahead, BK. Go ahead, BK.
You sort of mentioned one thing that I did want to add on here real quick. The turnovers are really the key for their defense because they're not very good at preventing people from driving on them. They'll give up the yards and they're just waiting for you to make a mistake and then they pounce on it. They've had a turnover a takeaway in every single game so far this year. Most of their games, they've had multiple turnovers. Last week, they ended up with 4 against Flacco. That's not the norm, obviously. That's Joe Flacco. But even against Tua and the Dolphins, they had 3 takeaways in that one. They had a couple of takeaways against Geno. They had a couple of takeaways against your Texans down there, Ron. Like it's something this defense does really well is once you start to get aggressive, they will use that against you. So Patrick Mahomes has to be careful. They've avoided turnovers the last couple of weeks. They've got to do that once again this week against the Bills.
For one thing, they're clearly not my Texans. I don't know where that comes from. My mom says that to me. Yay, how'd your Texans do? What are you talking about? They're not my Texans. All right. So let's get that first. And second, I am intrigued to see what, from a play calling perspective, what Andy are we getting? I don't think we have seen the. Nick Wright cracks me up when he says this all the time. Um, but I understand exactly what he's saying. Is he says, "Oh, dang, Chiefs had to pull out some of the good plays." Like I wonder, is this as Nick would say, a game in which Andy's like, "Hey, I want to pull out the good plays. I want to, as I would call it, playoff Andy this thing from a play calling perspective." Because listen, there are things that we know he's holding back. There are plays that we have not seen. And Andy's been pretty. I can't really remember many wrinkles that I've seen that are new. I wonder, is this a game where his play calling is different or anything that's new? Because this is a game that the Chiefs, if they win it, they can really sew up everything, damn near, right?
I mean,
with what they have left.
and let's put a fine point on that, Ron, because you're right. If they win this game, they effectively have a 4-game lead over everybody in the AFC not named the Steelers. And it's week 10. Like they will have played 10 games and they will have a 4-game lead over the Bills because the Bills will have 3 losses, including one against the Chiefs. So they'll have to finish a game better than the Chiefs because the Chiefs have the head-to-head tiebreaker. Same thing is true for the Ravens. They'll have 3 losses with the loss head-to-head against the Chiefs. Chargers, 3 losses, loss head-to-head against the Chiefs. If you win this one, you not only control your own destiny for that number 1 seed, you are the overwhelming favorite to win that number 1 seed. And really, you basically just have to win 2 games the rest of the way against the Steelers and the Texans. And then you've got it. It's locked up. So I think if ever there was a game to pull out the good stuff, and this is for both Andy and Spags, we'll get to that on the other side of the ball here in a little bit. This is it, dude. They've got to throw it all out there. And rarely would I say that for Andy against a team that there's a pretty decent shot you see again in the postseason. Typically, you hold that back for that playoff game. I think we have seen the bye is so important for this Chiefs team, man. You want them to get that week of rest. I think you pull it out this week. On the road at Buffalo, this is the spot. And then, you've got Carolina, Las Vegas. If you got to reel it in a little bit over the next couple of weeks, you've got the time to be able to do that. This is the week where you really have to push it.
Yeah, go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, this is the week. I feel like a lot of us thought maybe we would get a little bit of that against the 49ers, but the 49ers were so banged up and they played them so much. I feel like the Chiefs have a good read on Shanahan and that team in general. But this is the game where the Bills have gotten you in the regular season multiple times. And this is the real last landmark game where it's we can make a statement in the AFC and we can go out and try to lock this thing up before we've got a couple of tough contests against the Texans and Steelers. And other than that, we should walk right into the number 1 seed and not have to worry about it anymore. So we should absolutely get the good stuff.
Yeah, because to me, as you said, everybody not named the Steelers. Hell, the Steelers have the Ravens twice, at Bengals, at Philly before they see the Chiefs. There's no way they're marching through that with 2 losses, in my opinion. So, I think they're going to drop a couple because to me, this would lock the thing up if they're able to pull this off. Now, I will say the big problem point with this, and I will step in and admit this, is the Chiefs, they've got an issue at left tackle. Not
your Texans.
He just said Texans. It was on my mind. The Chiefs got a problem at left tackle. Whether it's Wanye is the lesser problem or listen, I've called to see Kingsley and I will listen, I'm not riding that shit anymore this year. That was, we talked about it on the Daily Fix. That was, he can't play. I'm almost annoyed. He looks worse than he did against Trey Hendrickson. And that was 10 weeks. That was 9 weeks ago. He looks worse. He got beat so bad. It was ridiculous. And you can't move. I am one that wants to hear the thought of they have got to get some insurance for this team. Almost is where I am. It is they're a struggle. I mean, and Wanye just looked amazing, but he ain't. I mean, compare when Kingsley went in. I mean, it was like, oh God, get him, but he ain't great either. So that's the point. And they've got some rushers out there, and they don't got no great pass rushers, but clearly you ain't got to be a great pass rusher to get to that left tackle spot. And I mean, it's so rough. We look over the right side and think it's just, Willie Roaf's over there, and it's not. So, like, I mean, that left tackle, I stand corrected. Like, I'm a nervous wreck if Wanye, has issues or has to come out of this game, because I mean, Kingsley is just open season. I mean, that one that Nick Bonito got on him, and Great White Hope got cussed out for it because Patrick said that had to be a blitz. Just had to be. There's no way that guy just came off. And Carson's over there like, what the hell did I do? I mean, that one was like, I was ready to put that 88 guy that they traded from the Cowboys over there at that left tackle spot. Like, I was like, it was like, we got it. I was like, Joe Tooney, go over there. Somebody. Yeah. That might have to be a thought. Like, I don't think Kingsley can come in anymore this year.
He can't see the field. That Nick Bonito, I'm glad you brought it up. That sack, that was the one where I was like, okay, it's untenable at this point. You can't put him into the football game. Kingsley Suamataia cannot play another down for the Chiefs this year. He's just not ready, man. Like, he needs so much more work prior to him really becoming a player for the Chiefs. I think I'm fine with Wanye. I think you're overselling it a little bit, Ron, on how bad he's been. I think Wanye Morris has been average. I think Wanye has been basically what you've had at the left tackle position for like the last few seasons. I don't think he's been good. I think he's been probably like the 20th best left tackle in the league. That's passable. You can win the Super Bowl with that. We've seen the Chiefs do it before. My concern is, like, we just saw Wanye go down for a little bit of time with that injury last week. Where's he at health-wise right now? And if for whatever reason he were to have to leave a game at some point the rest of the way, you cannot put Kingsley back in. You have to do something where you're kicking over Tooney and you bring in Caliendo and that be your offensive line. And then the following week, you call up Donovan Smith and say, we need you to be ready. Like, they should have Donovan Smith right now on speed dial. And honestly, I think he should be signed to the practice squad today. Because if ever there was a problem with Wanye, you would need him to start. You can't go back to Kingsley again. It's that bad right now, man.
I saw Donovan Smith on Twitter this week, and I think it seems pretty apparent that he is open to coming back to Kansas City. I just don't know if he's the player who's at a point in his career where he's like, I'll come sit on the practice squad until you guys want to fire me up into the starting lineup. Like, I don't think that Donovan Smith wants to come back to back up Wanye Morris. I think he just wants to be the Chiefs starting left tackle if they sign him.
I don't want that. I would rather have Wanye right now than Donovan Smith. If it's Kingsley versus Donovan, I'll take Donovan. But if it's Wanye versus Donovan, I'll take Wanye, because there's still at least a little bit of upside there. And I think it's pretty similar in terms of the performance.
But I think there's a little crisis mode there with just because he's already got a knee thing. I'm assuming he's going to play Sunday, or I think they would have signed Donovan Smith. So I'm assuming he's in a good spot there. But like, you're right. There has to be a different game plan if what happened last week happens. Because I have not. That looked like high school. The way how fast he got around him on multiple times. Like that was rough. That was rough. You can't do that. No, you can't do that at all. All right. When the Bills have the ball, I think the number one thing, and I got to come clean on this one too, God. Boy, these are backing up here. The Kingsley thing, and now this one. I'll be honest. I was at times, and we've talked about it on here. I didn't completely fall into the Chiefs have a tight end cover problem. I've thought a couple of times it was what they were willing to give up. I thought in the Ravens game, they were really concentrating in the passing game on shutting down the receivers and shutting down, in particular, what's his name, number 4? I've just completely lost his name for the Ravens.
Zay Flowers.
Zay Flowers. I felt like that was more of what they were trying to do, and even and Mark Andrews, and then I think they let their other tight end get going, and I thought that in some other games as well that tight ends have gotten off, and I didn't think they did an awful job against Bowers for the Raiders, but now there's Bowers, and now there's Kittle, and now there's the Baltimore game, and now there's Otten. It really Otten when they had nobody else to throw to.
Yeah.
That was the best place he was going, and he was still getting able to complete it. And then last week, Denver, who never throws it to their tight ends, and not just throws to their tight ends, it was befuddling me. Really, that's not the word I wanted to use. It was pissing me off because they were just blowing coverages. Like they were just, those guys are Troutman's just running down the field wide open. Like, Nick Bolton's passing off people in the end zone to no one. Like, it was that bad. And then if healthy, and that's a big one with Dalton Kincaid with that knee, he couldn't return back. He tried to give it a go in the game against the Colts last week, but they had to sit him down. He did not practice today again. So I think he's missed both of the padded practices, which is not a good sign for him. But if healthy, him, Dalton, Knox, I don't know if they're the best tandem. They're a really good tandem, but Josh really leans on them. Josh really gets the ball to them, and Joe Brady really has them as a big part of their offense. And that is a challenge. That is the biggest challenge to me in this game for the Chiefs, because I can no longer deny it. Not when you got that many examples of tight ends. And then when you clearly know in the passing game, multiple games, that the tight end is the one that hurts you and he just hurts your ass. Like, the Chiefs got a tight end coverage issue, and they got to really, really improve that this week, because that's to me what the Buffalo Bills want to do.
Especially because their wide receivers just aren't that good right now. Like, Khalil Shakir's okay. He's a decent slot receiver, but he's not a guy that you expect to kill you. Keon Coleman is not expected to play in this one. Amari Cooper, I think, will play, but he's got a wrist issue, so he's not at 100% right now. And then they've got like Mac Hollins, Curtis Samuel, just also Rams. Guys that are fine players, but never going to really hurt you too much. And I think Spags will be able to take care of some of that stuff. What the Chiefs have been getting hurt by is the tight ends and the running backs in the passing game. Teams are now attacking the Chiefs in the middle of the field because they know their safeties have to help with the corners now, because they don't have a legit number 2 corner, and they don't have linebackers that are great in coverage. The Chiefs have linebackers that are really good at a decent number of things, but they're not great in coverage. So you attack them with Dalton Kincaid and Dawson Knox, and you go out there with James Cook in the passing game as well. That's my biggest fear for this game, Ron, is the Chiefs take away Khalil Shakir. They figure out what to do against Amari Cooper. They have a really good game plan to be able to get pressure, but not fully take down Josh Allen. And then boom, here's James Cook for a 15-yard game and across the middle. Boom, here's Dawson Knox, who's the number 2 tight end that they tried to get off the field when they drafted Dalton Kincaid, and he's got a 12-yard play up the seam. Like, those are the things that are just total backbreakers for a defense. That's what I'm concerned about in this game as well.
Khalil Shakir is a nice little player for the Buffalo Bills, so
he's solid.
Totally discount him in that wide receiver group. But yeah, we've been talking about it. Like, the tight end matchup against the Chiefs is the matchup to exploit. If you're a good offensive play caller, you should be dialing things up against the Chiefs to get your tight end open, because as we've seen, they don't even have to be very good tight ends to find some success against the Chiefs in that area. They're still solid everywhere else. We still have questions about the cornerback too, but I also don't think that Dalton Kincaid's a little bit overrated. Like, it's not like he's been like a game breaker for the Buffalo Bills this season. So yes, it's a good matchup for them, but I think James Cook concerns me a little bit more, because we've already seen the Bills deploy James Cook against the Chiefs in that passing game role and seen him have success. And we've seen other running backs beat the Steve Spagnuolo defense that way over the years. But most of the time, I think a lot of the reason it seems like it doesn't happen as often in the Chiefs is because most teams don't have the personnel to deploy it the way that the Bills do with James Cook. And so he's the guy that I'm really going to be watching, because I think Kincaid is a talented player. And if he's healthy, yes, it's going to be something that where I think they could possibly win against the Chiefs defense. But I think James Cook is really the guy that I'm going to be paying attention to on Sunday, because I think that's the guy that really scares me.
I hope they smother them. Like, I hope that is the plan of attack. I would dare them jokers to beat me deep. I would dare Mac Hollins and Shakir and even Amari at this point. I don't think McDuffie is going to play like he did last week. I would dare them to beat me deep and really smother and be aggressive, and hope your pass rush can get there too with your blitzes too. But like, that's because I just watch teams, and there is just so much space for the running backs and the tight ends right off the bat, and Josh is having no problems dropping it off this year. No problems. But we know he will get antsy, especially if the game dictates it and the score dictates it, and he feels like he's got to go, like he's got to score. He will put them up for grabs. And like the Chiefs, at least on the receivers on the perimeter, the coverage should be better on this thing. So I hope that's the aggressive mentality they have, is to play tight and play up on these guys and not give Josh those easy outlets, those easy like little throws. I just like, even as backup running back, they had a long touchdown catch against the Colts, and it was just like a swing route.
Ray
He
Davis
just ran because
he's a good player.
No, he's good, but there was nobody within 10 yards of him, and he got going, and it was good night. So I hope they're more aggressive with these guys when they whatever they do, because I don't believe any of those guys can beat the Chiefs deep.
I'm fascinated to see what Spag's plan is in this game, man. Absolutely fascinated. Yep. Because the other thing you have to worry about is Josh Allen with his legs. And
that's what I'm most nervous about.
If you end up in this game where you're playing a bunch of man coverage on the outside, and you're blitzing potentially, like what ends up happening is they have those free lanes for Josh Allen to run for 12 yards. And we've seen it before. We've seen it in some of the playoff games between these two teams. In the regular season, Josh Allen has actually not done much with his legs against the Chiefs. Strangely, in the playoffs, where the Chiefs have actually had more success against the Bills, he's had a ton of success on the ground with his legs. So I don't know what the plan is going to be for this game. I think they're a little concerned about their number 2 and number 3 corner situation. So I think they've kind of leaned off of some of that blitzing over the last couple of weeks. I felt like they could have heated up Bo Nix a little bit more last week. It's something I would have liked to have seen them do a little bit more in that game. We've seen them use on the defensive side of the ball. Leo Chanel's kind of been like this, like jack of all trades type of a player, where depending on what the matchup is, they'll use him to just blow up a specific area of the offense. I wonder if he just becomes the spy this week for Josh Allen and says, hey, look, anywhere you go, that's where I'm going. But then that takes him away as using him in other ways. I don't know, man. It's something I'm fascinated with, because I mentioned on the offensive side of the ball, this should be an Andy game. It should also very much be a Spags game where he comes with his best stuff against Buffalo.
Listen, with Josh, and I think there has to be some acceptance with this. Like, Josh is going to make some plays with his legs. It can't be the 43-yarder for the touchdown, but he's going to make some plays with his legs. He's going to catch us. He's going to catch us multiple times. He's got to make some plays with legs. But to me, is you got to, on those drives, minimize them suckers and don't let him get in the end zone. And second, you got to get him on the ground when you got a chance. Like, and the Chiefs have had issues with that at times. You have got to get him on the ground. And if Chanel's going to be the spy, I think Shamari Connor is probably going to have situations and opportunities with this. You have got to get him on the ground. Like, what is Lamar the only really running quarterback they faced? And he gave them that work. Now, he is Lamar, but Josh Allen in his own different way is somebody. He may not get you 122, but he's somebody that will get yards. And in the playoff game, like you said, man, he had a long run that I don't know if he scored, or if he didn't score, he set up one in the playoff game. So you got to get him on the ground and limit the thing. And that's the thing is, man, you can't have, which the Chiefs' deep run defense has been really good. You can't have James Cook and Davis running the ball well and Josh, running it. Like, honest to God, like this offense is different. They are not the big play type of thing. They are more closer to the Chiefs methodically moving the ball down the field more than anything else, and then Josh making a play. So I mean that's the thing, is you got to get him down on the ground. To me, all right, a little certified or imposter. Serda, give me my music right now. Certified or imposter. I make a statement. You say if it's certified or imposter. Serda, I won't go to you first on this. The best thing to happen to the Chiefs is that they go ahead and lose a game and get this streak and this undefeated talk out of the window. Just throw that on out. I think is it the best thing to happen for the Chiefs is that they lose a game, so we're not talking and thinking, and that's what the narrative is them on this 15-game streak and them going undefeated.
I'm going to say it's certified. I don't want them to lose this week. I would very much like to see them make a statement against a very good team in the AFC and the Buffalo Bills. But inevitably, I think they are going to drop a game. I don't know when it's going to come, but they're going to lose a game eventually. And I'm perfectly fine with them doing that because I've always been team go make history. Like, I want to see cool things happen. I want to see things I've never seen before. But you're already playing for history this season. If you go win a third straight Super Bowl, you're the greatest dynasty in NFL history. That's good enough. I don't need to tack undefeated on there too. Like, just go get the ring. And so if this undefeated thing is going to, especially a team that's had as many injuries, now the kicker's on the shelf for a month. Like, I don't need them to go undefeated in the regular season. I just need them healthy for the playoffs so they can go try to win a third straight Super Bowl.
I think it's imposter because, boy, do I think this would be amazing, man. Like, I have resisted all of your urge to talk about the undefeated season, Ron. I think I've done a pretty good job of it for the most part because it's like, no, they're not going to care about it, so why should I care about it? Dude, if they win this game, I'm going to care about it. This is the last, like, real hurdle to the possibility that it could be something they can do. Because now, like, they should not lose to Carolina. They should not lose to Vegas. That Chargers game is at home. Could lose it, but it's at home. Cleveland, come on. Your stupid Houston Texans team, they're total frauds. I never believed in them to begin with. And then you got that weird Christmas Day game against the Steelers. Shame. But, like, it's in play. It's in play. So I'm going to have to say imposter, man. I don't think this is the best thing for them. I don't think it's something that really hinders them because they've had to talk about history all along. They were going for 3 Super Bowls in a row anyways. So, like, what? Going for 17-0 is going to be the thing that the straw that breaks the camel's back? No, man. This team's already so freaking tough. I don't think that's something that's really going to get them off of what they're already trying to accomplish. They've got bigger goals.
Yeah. It's imposter. There's no way in hell at the end of the season they're saying, boy, I tell you what, man, that loss there, that's what turned it for us. That's what turned it for you. And that was the point that I was going to make, BK, is it's not like the pressure just comes off. It's like it's still the next pressure. It's still the next pressure. It is, everybody still hates them and wants them to lose, and now it's the three-peat. It's all still there. Like, it is all going to be there if they lose or not. So no, hell no. Win them all. Win all them suckers is my thought. And I think in general that's the dumbest thing I ever hear, that a team needs to lose something. No, they don't. That's just dumb. No, they don't need to lose anything. All right. I think they learned an awful lot in that close game they won last week. I think they learned enough. I think they've enough in that sucker. And, like, if you can go through a whole season with the Taylor Swift crap, you can go through the whole season with your kicker who's now hurt, that goes through and has all that stuff in between them. I mean, you can go through a whole season with all the stuff they've dealt with. They can deal with this. All right, they can deal with this. It just adds to it. So, hell no. That thing is imposter. Imposter all day. All right, prediction time. I'll lead it off. Honest to God, I thought this was a game that the Chiefs were going to lose. Like, I thought this was going to be the one. But I think everything that happened this week and how they lost, how Buffalo went on the road and won, and now they've won 5 in a row, and how the things with the Lions now, even though they threw 5 interceptions in a game and watched, CJ Stroud and company self-destruct in the second half, and now still people are believing the Lions are the best team in football, even though they've not won a damn thing. And now the Chiefs have had to sit and hear this. And you guys have covered this team as long as I have. And there are moments and times where we see Mahomes counting touchdowns, where we know these teams get themselves turned on, where we see things like Travis Kelce just absolutely without any thoughts being disrespectful and throwing Justin Tucker's kicking stuff all out of here because he's pissed. Because somebody keeps saying all week long that Kyle Hamilton is the person to stop him. And then he comes out and destroys Kyle Hamilton in 2 drives. Like we have seen the Chiefs get themselves going. I thought this was going to be a game where, all right, the Bills really want it. They want it more. They're at home. The Chiefs, but the way they won that game against Denver, Mahomes, I think, played. I mean, he didn't have a blatant turnover, but my God, Xavier Worthy, just throw the ball to him inbounds. My God, Travis Kelce, just throw the ball to him. We wouldn't have been in the situation of having to block a field goal. I think guys like that, McDuffie, the way he played, I got to believe he can't wait to get out on the field. I got the Chiefs actually winning this game. I'm going to go 24-21 in this game. 24-21 Chiefs.
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same ballpark. I'm not totally convinced with the Bills just yet. Like, I know that they're a good football team. I know they're a well-coached team. I know that Josh Allen is incredible, but I do think that there's a talent disparity between the Chiefs and this season's version of the Buffalo Bills, even though their record would say that they're still in the same ballpark as the Chiefs. I just think that the Chiefs match up really well with the things that the Bills are bad at. And so I'm going to pick the Chiefs, even though they haven't had a ton of success against the Bills in the regular season, but I think they'll do enough to get it done on Sunday. So I get the Chiefs winning 27-21.
All week, I thought I was going to pick the Bills in this game. All week I did. And then I started thinking about it more and more. And as we started prepping for the show today, Ron, I was like, I think the Chiefs are winning this football game for all of the reasons that you laid out. I think typically this is the kind of game that the Chiefs would come into at like 7-3, and it matters for them to get the 1 seed, but Chiefs believe they can go anywhere and win at this point. And so they go out there, they do everything they can to win, but they're not going to put all of their eggs in this basket. I don't feel that way about this game, dude. You're 9-0. You have the chance to basically put as much distance as you could possibly ask for between you and everybody else that is a legitimate contender in the AFC for the number 1 seed. And the rest of the way, it's like found money for the Chiefs if they win this football game. So I think they're going to win. I think it's going to be a little bit more high scoring than what you would typically expect for a Chiefs game. I think they win this one 31-27 in Buffalo and start the season 10-0 with a convincing victory. And after this week, nobody's going to be able to question whether or not the Chiefs are the best team in the NFL again.
Yeah, hey, y'all think we see vintage Mahomes? You think we see the I'm the best player on the field version of Mahomes?
I think you see last year postseason Mahomes. So I don't know if you would consider that to be vintage, but I think he's going to be rip your heart out, like third downs. It doesn't matter the distance. Like he's going to go out there and be the efficiency monster that he's become. That version of Mahomes is what I think you'll see on Sunday. I do not think you'll see like bombs away Mahomes. So I don't think that version's coming back this week.
Yeah. I think we're just going to see first few drives, Mahomes starts 13 of 15 or something, and he's just hitting everything, and he just looks totally locked in.
Yeah, and then Andy hits the emergency brake and slows all of us down in the second half to just slow it down and take away the game time. All right, we are out.